At this moment, know that the world around you is a projection of your own mind. Everything you see is the play of the mind, like reflections in a mirror without real substance or permanence. If only this can be seen, if only the mirror can be seen, everything becomes clear. Everything else is easy to understand. The challenge is just this. Can you stand in front of this frameless mirror that extends everywhere and see the mirror? Can you detach yourself enough from the reflection long enough to get a glimpse of this mirror? That is realization. You cannot achieve it, you cannot get to it, it will not come to you, you cannot go to it, but it can be realized. And what is this realization? It is not a realization that we are familiar with in our daily lives. In our daily lives, realization is purely intellectual, purely mental. Oh, I realized where I dropped my keys. I realized my mistake. I realized what I should not have done. This is the context in which we use the word realization. It is simply a misplacement in the mind, a small mistake that is being corrected. But spiritual realization isn't this. Spiritual realization is also correcting a mistake. It is also setting right something that has been misplaced. It is also remembering something that you have forgotten. But it isn't mental, but perceptual. What you're setting right is the perceptual flaw. Every moment you are perceiving the flaws of your own mind. You are perceiving the reflections of your own mind. Realization is to stop perceiving for a moment. It is not enough if you stop thinking. Anyways, that is not possible. Intellectual realization is also an impossibility. Because what does it mean when we say, I realize I am the self now? Let us leave aside the actual realization. Let us just look at intellectual realization. Is that true? Is your intellectual realization something that you can hold on to, even momentarily? When we say, I have been confused, I have been lost, I've been searching for myself, at last I have found the answer. I have found myself. That's what self-realization is. Now, if it is just intellectual, what exactly is happening there? What have you actually found? Even if you were to entertain this idea of intellectual realization, you will see how impossible it is to even intellectually realize enlightenment. Even to believe that you're enlightened is not possible. Because what does it mean? It does not mean anything. It is just another thought, another idea, another reflection, another cloud, another wave in the vastness of life. Nothing specific, nothing concrete. Just like all other ideas, this is one other idea that comes and goes. Yes, if you hold on to this idea long enough, if you keep repeating it, you are familiar with the idea, but it is not a reality. Realization has to be existential, which means the one who's realizing should disappear. That is true realization. When realization happens to a nobody, when you are not realizing it, when realization itself is completing the process of realizing something. If you are the mistake, if perception is the mistake, now how can you still be there and still the realization can happen? That's where the contradiction is. It is actually a simple problem. It's not very difficult to understand. As long as you are perceiving the world through your mind, you are perceiving the flaws of your mind. Hence, any idea of realization through the mind is just a theoretical, fanciful imagination of realization. It has nothing to do with realization. Actual realization is an experience that happens when this perceptual flaw is cleared. When we understand it like this, when we see life as a reflection in the mirror of our consciousness, in the mirror of our mind, realization is a moment when we are no longer reflecting anything in this mirror. We are not interested in looking at the reflections in the mirror. You have not moved an inch. Fundamentally, nothing has changed. But some process, some practice, some method has given you the ability to watch this mirror, leaving out the reflection. The mirror is always there. You look into still water, the first thing you will see is your reflection. The very fact that you are able to see your reflection means that the water is there. Just because you cannot see it doesn't mean it isn't there. It's exactly same with the mirror. Every day you go stand in front of the mirror, but you are not at all interested in the mirror. In fact, you've never actually seen the mirror. You've never had a conversation with the mirror. You don't have any relationship with this mirror. As far as your mind is concerned, this mirror doesn't even exist. What the mind is interested in is the reflection. The effort that is required for you to stop seeing the reflection to see the mirror is exactly the same effort it takes for you to stop perceiving the body and just be at the center of perception itself. Now, how can this be intellectual? How can this be something that can just happen accidentally while you're going about your life? How can this happen emotionally? How can this happen through the grace of a teacher? How can this happen through the gift of your religion? There is no possibility. It is such a scientific phenomenon. Realization, enlightenment is so scientific, so precise. Unless you are following a method, following a path that arranges your perception in such a way that this perception turns around and starts perceiving itself, there is no way to become enlightened. But we have all kinds of stories. Thousands of years of human storytelling tradition. We love telling stories. Most of our stories are about those things that we are interested in. And we have always been interested in enlightenment. We have always been interested in that transcendental experience that takes us to the highest realms of life. Hence, some of our oldest, some of our deepest, most impactful stories are about enlightenment. But because we don't know what enlightenment is, we don't know the actual nature of enlightenment, at least most people who talk about it, we simply narrate a religious interpretation of that story. Why some of the oldest institutions, oldest stories that have shaped people's lives are religious? Because it is a story of enlightenment. It is a story of self-realization. There is nothing more profound than telling an individual how he can transcend life, how he can clear out the error in perception, how he can go to a more perfect place. It is because of the error in perception there is pain, there is suffering, there is confusion, there is delusion, there is detachment, there is loneliness, there is depression. It's all because of this error in perception. If there is no flaw in perception, if you can just see that you are the perceiver, you are not the perceived, just this much. I am not the story I'm telling myself. I am not the person I'm seeing in the mirror. I am not the conversations I'm hearing in my head. I am not the accolades that I'm receiving from my friends and family members. I am not the judgment of the society and the people in it. I am the perception. I am life. I am this moment. I am this completeness. How can you be in trouble? How can you be lost? Isn't that what you're searching for? To be able to own this moment fully. Just to say, I don't care about what's happening out there. I don't even know what this out there is. I'm not interested in the past. I'm not interested in the future. I love the present moment, and everything that is happening in this present moment, I can see it as a projection of my own mind. If I can say this with absolute certainty, I don't need anything else. I don't need religion. I don't need God. I don't need heaven and hell. I don't need complex philosophies. I don't have to be worried about the judgments of others. I don't have to find myself on the outside. I don't have to search for meaning. This moment is my meaning. This moment is my completion. It is because we are unable to come to this moment. At our moment of choosing, we need religion. We need philosophy. We need preachers. We need teachers. Because we are simply unable to accept how central we are to life. We have gotten used to looking at ourselves from the outside so much. In search of ourselves, basically we are searching for an explanation for our self-image. We are not interested in the sun. We are not interested in the light of the sun. We want to know why the sun is reflecting in the bowl of water we are holding in our hands. Our entire inquiry is about trying to understand the sun that is being reflected. Now, how can we understand the actual nature of the sun? By investigating into the reflection. No matter how we try, we will only end up with a theoretical understanding. We will only end up creating a model of reality. We would never know the depth of reality, the intensity of reality. You can create a very accurate model. Just by looking at the reflection, you can deduce a lot of things. And that's how we understand life. We don't know the depth of life. We don't know the intensity of life. We don't know how far life extends. We don't know how deep this moment goes. But we have concepts, innumerable concepts, innumerable theories of what the body is, what the mind is, what the world is. Because we don't have an actual experience, we run for help. And as long as you are wanting help, somebody will be there. Whether it's real or not, whether they know it or not, they can see that there is an opportunity to have a little more control over the human mind. And this has been the story of humanity. Many minds lost in the ever-flowing stream of life, struggling to know the meaning of life, to know the purpose of life. A few wanting to supply answers. Once in a while, a rare phenomenon occurs. An individual finds a path, a way that leads to the clearing of this perceptual flaw. He finds a method. It takes months, it takes years. It takes a regular routine of searching. Except for this process, all those people who have claimed that this is what the truth is. I've had a realization, I've had an experience. I had this experience when I was a child. I had this experience in my previous life. I was very ripe for realization in my previous life, and in this life I fell down and bumped my head and I realized myself. No story should make sense. The only story of realization that should make sense, that will make sense, is a story where there is some kind of discipline involved, some kind of routine involved. The problem with how we have remembered the stories of enlightened people is we remember everything about them except for this routine. We shrink their entire life, the most important parts of their life, where they have been practicing, learning how to understand this perception, how to understand this mind, how to stay in the present moment. We leave all this out because we don't know how to record it. It is too mystical and it is too boring to record. What did Buddha do for 6 years? Nothing. In fact, the most important part of his discipline was doing nothing. For hours and hours, he sat quiet doing nothing. For 6 years, he struggled and struggled only how not to do something. He was not trying to figure out how to do something. But if you read the books, if you read the scriptures, it always seems like Buddha was struggling to do something. He was struggling to find something concrete, something real. But in actuality, his entire effort was learning how to be without the mind interfering.